Tonight on Joy News Prime, Finance Minister requests approval from Parliament for 1.2 billion Ghana cedis for a coronavirus alleviation program.
I am by this presentation submitting a request to the Finance Committee to grant us the authorization to assess the requisite amounts from the contingency fund to confront the challenge that has engulfed the nation.
The request comes even as the country records yet another COVID-19 death, bringing the total to 6 and to 313 the number of confirmed cases so far. The minority, meanwhile, is setting out conditions for the approval of the Finance Minister's request.
The minority also has its position in terms of what we believe ought to be done. So at the meeting, we hope that we can build consensus.
Water Resources and Sanitation Minister outlines modalities for smooth implementation of government's Free Water Initiative. It, however, turns out the peculiar nature of the water distribution system in most homes is proving a challenge for many tenants who are eager to enjoy the freebie.
See your money for 3 months, almost scan. Am I as to cry so to be booked because you better not fear for lockdown or be unquestioned. And he say, this can be told to I and to me.
And though the landlords concede that water should be free, they say compliance is a survival matter.
Always indoors due to my condition. As a result, I've not been able to work. I rely solely on the water I sell here.
The Ghana Navy is urging the country's fisher folk to hand over all persons who attempt to sneak into the country through the sea during the current border closure.
Have been closed. So the sea borders have been closed. So we should not allow our colleagues from Cote d'Ivoire, Liberia, Sierra Leone, and those places to enter.
Meanwhile, in the Upper East Regional Capital, Bolgatanga, residents are said to be going about their business as usual, even though the region last Friday recorded its first COVID-19 case.
Still hammering on the point, we didn't take it serious. We didn't care. To be sincere, I will not lie to you because I'm a can-do driver. We didn't take it serious. We still need some education.
And in business,
Ghana Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative advocates amendment to the law controlling usage of the Heritage Fund.
It's about meeting national emergencies. The point I make is that there are already existing mechanisms for dealing with that.
I'm Israel anchoring from home, and remember, Joy News Prime is live on digital terrestrial TV because we're free to air.
Ibrahim, we are live from our studios in Kokomlemle in Accra on digital address GA0992539 on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 144. Please stay tuned in.
In our first story, Ghana has recorded one more COVID-19 death, taking the death toll to 6. The Ghana Health Service did not give details about the latest death in Wednesday's update of the number of cases, which now stands at 313. According to the dedicated COVID-19 website, 37 of the number of cases have come from enhanced contact tracing and testing. The Central Region now has a confirmed case, bringing to 6 the number of regions with cases, and we'll be bringing you the case from the Central Region in a while. Now, the regional breakdown leaves Greater Accra with 274, Ashanti with 25, Northern 10, Upper West 1, Eastern Region 1, Upper East 1, and Central Region 1. Now, the service also gave an update on the enhanced contact tracing exercise, saying a total of 11,016 samples from contacts have been processed as of Tuesday, April 7, 2020, and that 37 of them, or 0.34%, have been confirmed positive for COVID-19. Now, the Ashanti Regional Health Directorate has identified 10 communities as hotspots for potential spread of the coronavirus. The region's case count increased from 17 as at Monday to 25 as the national confirmed cases rose to 313 with 6 deaths, as I indicated earlier. Now, Regional Director of Health, Dr. Emmanuel Tinkrang, says the upsurge is due to what he says is active surveillance adopted by the directorate. He has been speaking exclusively with Love FM's Prince Appiah. All right, so we will be bringing you the story from the Ashanti region as well as the Cape Coast case in a bit. Before then, though, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta has requested parliamentary approval for an amount of 1.2 billion Ghana cedis for the coronavirus alleviation program. He laid a paper requesting the approval on the floor of Parliament on Wednesday after MPs were recalled from suspension. He explains the money will help see Ghanaians through the challenges brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic.
Mr. Speaker, the coronavirus alleviation program will primarily support provision of food and water for households and sanitation. 2, relief for health sector workers who are modern-day protectors and soldiers against this unseen enemy. And 3, soft loans for micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises to alleviate the disruption of our business people, informal, who represent 90% of our employees, beyond the cold calculus of the economics. Mr. Speaker, consistent with Article 177, Clause 1 of the 1992 Constitution, I am by this presentation submitting a request to the Finance Committee to grant us the authorization to assess the requisite amounts from the contingency fund to confront the challenge that has engulfed the nation in this matter of the COVID-19 affliction. Mr. Speaker, following this, the Ministry will take steps going forward to do the needful. Mr. Speaker, these are extraordinary and sobering times, and we must respond with a deep sense of social justice so that our very humanity is not compromised.
Speaker Professor Michael Quay referred the request to the Parliament's Finance Committee. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta disclosed to the committee that 280 million cedis of the amount will go into food packages and hot meals. Also 40 million to Buffer Stock Company, 200 million for water and sanitation, 241 million cedis for tax waiver for health personnel, 80 million as allowance for health staff. Now 2 million for Ayalulu bus rides for health workers and 600 million cedis for soft loans to businesses. He gave the breakdown at the sitting of the Finance Committee.
Medium enterprises and minimize job losses through that, and then provide additional funding for promotion of industries to shore up and expand industrial output for domestic consumption and exports. So that's another level of funding that we'll have to begin to think through. But the expenditure plan for the CAP will cover an initial amount of 1.204 billion, representing the cedi equivalent of $218.95 million. Of the initial 1.2 billion, Mr. Chairman, 600 million will be allocated to support businesses, 280 million will be used to support households for the provision of food, water, and sanitation. For the rest of them will be focused on protecting our health workers. That is the waiver of taxes to the workers, the personal account taxes for 3 months, allowance for 50% of their basic salaries for all frontline health, and then busing for health workers. So it's essentially in 3 categories: for household, for health workers, and then loans to support the majority of our people who are in micro and small businesses during that period. Mr. Chairman, that essentially is the structure, and details of implementation can also be discussed.
Now, the Speaker has since indefinitely suspended sitting. Member of Parliament's Finance Committee, John Jinapor, says the Speaker's handling of the suspension is confusing.
The minority also has its position in terms of what we believe ought to be done. So at the meeting, we hope that we can build consensus. In these difficult moments, the best thing we can do is to build consensus because we ought to serve the people of Ghana. Initially, what the Speaker did was to suspend the House and ask the Finance Committee to go and work and come back today. We thought that that was the right thing because in very difficult emergency moments such as this, the minority side is willing to work with the majority so that we consider the document today and get our proposals and our inputs imputed before we come to the floor. But right after the Speaker made that declaration, somebody walked to the Speaker, spoke to him, and he changed his mind and said that he is suspending the House indefinitely. What it means is that if the Speaker needs us back, he has to issue a notice again, like he did yesterday. Now we go and consider the document today. We don't even know when we are coming to report to Parliament. We don't know when we come back to the plenary. Because once the Speaker refers a matter to a committee, it's only proper, it's only fair that the committee returns back to the floor and report to the plenary. But as it stands, we are in a state of confusion. We just don't know what to do.
The Minister for Water Resources and Sanitation says government is expected to spend an estimated 200 million cedis to settle the bills that will accumulate as a result of its decision to absorb the cost of water supplied Ghanaians for the next 3 months. Speaking on Joy FM Super Morning Show Wednesday, Cecilia Abnadapa also explained the arrangements put in place for smooth implementation of the initiative.
We have done some homework to check. I have a chart here. Each region and the quantum of water that is produced. Right now we have the figure for February, for instance. We have 852,825 cubic meters of water. And then people also inadvertently forget about the Community Water and Sanitation Agency. This is the agency that is in charge of peri-urban and rural water. They also produce 254,756 cubic meters of water. So as we speak, we have over 1 million in our pocket to distribute. Like the President said, he has, and government has absorbed all the water bills. And the operationalization of these directives is where we are. And we will crave the indulgence of all of us to make sure there's cooperation, there's collaboration, so that we give the best service to all Ghanaians. And we came out with some statements to make sure we spell out in exactly what we are going to do. Clearly, the President gave us 3 months grace period that he's absorbing all the water bills. Someone may ask, if I may preempt some of the questions that may come in, what if I owe already? We have directed that all arrears are to be put on hold for people to enjoy what the President has given to all of us, free water supply.
Well, Madam Dapa says some call centers have been established to receive complaints and help with effective distribution of water.
I'd like to also give out one notice that there are landlords who normally charge tenants for water use. We are appealing to them not to charge them anymore because the government will pay for the water in that particular house.
You're watching Joy News Prime. We're taking a break. Do stay tuned in. We'll be back with more.
Welcome back to Joy News Prime. Now to the rest of our stories. And though government's decision to take up the water bills of Ghanaians for the next 3 months has been well received, its implementation could prove quite a challenge because of the unique nature of the channels which get the water to the final consumer. For a significant number of consumers who deal directly with the Ghana Water Company, there wouldn't be an issue. Many Ghanaians, however, especially those in compound houses, will have to deal with a middleman or woman who often happens to be landlords or landladies with their own tariffs. But Ghanaians in such homes who are sometimes charged by the bucket believe they necessarily would have to enjoy the free water moratorium and want government to intervene. Joy News has been speaking with some of them at Kokomlemle here in Accra.
Me patrol ye wo pipe wan so echiaka che say pipe na ebu no ye ma me bi dia wa ha say but me kunu say on penenti no oton maye o se maye mbu ni free no na onya aban na de nso ni ma no nti ona nkasa ni nso nti oton ni free.
We have running water in this house, but the landlord has refused to allow us fetch the water for free. I urge government to find ways to enforce its free policy, else we will suffer.
Of my be a cover for appeal. Pipe check, I did government fee only. A war government beg me back like a can will be an LA. A caca won't talk free a bang.
Each time we fetch water here, we have to pay for it because the owner says government didn't construct the pipe. Hence, they have no right to tell them what to do. So we are forced to pay.
I hope I can say now back like a nekeke can't care a war. Car pipe, shinafo, allow me mali.
The landlords agree the water could be free, except for some of them. Retailing the utility has been a source of livelihood for years, and so many will be left financially handicapped by government's move.
And I'm a patro baby, best 25 years in me. I mean to me, Dinamanaso, a year at the Nante. Metimenya, me 90, me Piabon Simple, Debia, Namishe fee. Then Suya, and I'm a ton of cracker crack. The mirror can say Busumi and Sa. Ma yen ton sui, me strebis say. I'm
always indoors due to my condition. As a result, I have not been able to work. I rely solely on the water I sell here. So now that the government has directed that we should not sell the water for the next 3 months, I humbly ask Nana, will it also mean that I will not pay the water bills for the next 3 months? Because I spend a lot of money on water bills. In fact, my bills piled up and I was owing. I just cleared the bills recently and got a new meter. So I'm appealing to government to ensure that at the end of the 3 months, I will not have to pay any bills, because that is my only source of livelihood.
First month now, I share no, but you are 2.5. But Miss Rennie baby, so I should say, Busumi sana wakano. Actually, say, Billy Bow one. May a day, say, Minya do maybe a miniska minisha phobia or shame. Meteocra, me free me night. A free me sissy, come see me no be a phobia or shame, and I am the Yaranet so, sir. At me panicho, Ambrasim say, be bisa. Say, Busumi sana waka say free no matter. And so, ya the Billy Beba say, in cheers ask Nana, the mene wafubi or Bebuame.
Meanwhile, in another suburb of the capital, people who retail water have decided to simply cease operations. Residents of Teshikam 2 tell Joy News these water retailers have been their main source of potable water until government asks that the utility be made free for the next 3 months. They complain without supply from the retailers, the hand-washing protocols being encouraged by government to stop the pandemic will be undermined. Latif Idris has more.
The lockdown and restriction order issued by President Akufo-Addo, a painful but necessary requirement to stem the spread of the deadly COVID-19, has also created unintended consequences to families, homes and businesses. So in his last address to the nation, President Akufo-Addo announced this particular relief.
Government will absorb the water bills for all Ghanaians for the next 3 months, i.e. April, May, and June. All water tankers, publicly and privately owned, are also going to be mobilized to ensure the supply of water to all vulnerable communities.
But it appears that waiver by President Akufo-Addo is not going down well with a lot of people. Here at Teshie Camp 2, the people are being denied that basic and necessary commodity, water.
Nti say ya pese ya bua yenkwa Akufo-Addo office honom na oyenkwa say no onfa polytank mbra ha na enya Akufo-Addo no di we pipe no be si ho mo nti yakobua se no mogi en sa no mogi en nti ya see a problem no so no na ye problem pa nti sa ban bebe mo amaya e be ye nde pa.
So what she's saying essentially is that they've gone to these pumps trying to get water, but what the operators of those pumps are telling them is that the president isn't the one who purchased the tanks for them, and so his directive is not something they are adhering to. The people are now bearing the brunt here.
The attorney say Kobunsua, almost say Scandia, Omeji, Omofanche, if you say almost to the Omediano, and this Omangia, Omeda Didi. Ana yanso so yeso ye na etifi so mu just kana mu dia mba che say yeso so ya enware ya enzo nkure yensa ya endidi ana.
The next point I'm going to, one of the precautionary measures for this whole COVID-19 pandemic is hand washing. You have to wash your hands whenever you hold doors and everything that people usually touch. How is your hand washing practice being affected by this, the fact that you don't have access to water? How is that affecting your hand washing practice?
Pacho, the attorney say I and so now say I buy see money for 3 months. Almost say scan. Am I as to cry and so no cry to be mukesi because you bet not fear for lockdown or be unquench juma. And he say in this beton so I answer to me. Sanitize all the farms across still a few on sound. They say we here and so at the bell. It's because I was almost say on magic scanning to yen to me bunsu and any problem here.
Nadat is also sharing the same experience as our sister right here, and what Najat added has to do with the fact that in her household they are unable to wash or frequently wash their hands, which is one of the precautionary measures required if you are to defeat and go ahead of the pandemic, as the president put it in his last address. And
Mrs. Taketwa, me pona me fi say jo kwakrombe consider say no ya akwala no. Okwaya yesi on beji scamra. Me so nche de me menti say yesi on beji scanti me kra no. Me share that the 1 CD so e ma akwala ne so fanko. Okwaya no ya jiniska. Ya jiniska no sansu bunsuo no. Enti no enye easy.
Sentinel is also sharing similar sentiment as has been shared by her 3 other colleagues here, that she had to pay for the essential commodity yesterday when she sent her little girl to go and fetch some water for the household. Perhaps one way government can fix the challenge is by partnering with operators of private water tankers to consistently supply vulnerable communities and households with precious commodity as a mitigating effort to the huge risk posed by the biological disaster, the coronavirus pandemic.
We return now to the Central Region's first confirmed case of COVID-19. It's a 57-year-old man who is said to have traveled from the UK and arrived in Ghana on March 17. He subsequently developed symptoms and tested positive. So far, 13 people are said to have made contact with the man after the preliminary work done by contact tracers. Richard Kojonyako has details from a news conference in Cape Coast.
Today, 8 April 2020, the Central Region has recorded its first confirmed case of COVID-19 disease.
Central Regional Minister Kwame Duncan announcing the region's first case. Regional Director of Health Services, Dr. Akosua Owusu-Sapong, gives succinct account of how things happened, leading to the recorded case.
Surveillance department sending me the reports, the case-based reports, and then the positive confirming a case of a Ghanaian who traveled to UK and came into the country about 2 weeks ago and was having some symptoms. He called friends at Cape Coast Teaching Hospital, a doctor, and then he went with another health personnel. They went and took the specimen and sent to the Gucci, and the results came out as positive. So early this morning, as soon as we got to the office, we held an emergency meeting. The contact tracing team from the Metro Health Directorates were invited, and then we deliberated on the contacts to be identified and traced. So they went to the field to trace the contacts, and 2 p.m. today they came with some information. So far, we've identified 13 contacts that we are tracing, and some will need self-isolation, and some will need isolation in an area. So far, we've identified a secondary school within the region that we are going to hold those who are living with their families in small apartments, and therefore it will be difficult for them to self-isolate. We are isolating them in that facility. And then the Metro Health Directorates and the Metro Chief Executive Assembly, they are going to support in the feeding of those isolated there.
Chief Executive Officer of the Cape Coast Teaching Hospital, Dr. Eric Kofi-Njedu, shares how the contact was made to the hospital by relatives of the then suspected case.
Our emergency physician, who is the head of the accident and emergency, was contacted by the daughter of the said suspected case that they wanted to send to the emergency. And after listening carefully, he then called the head of our task team for COVID-19, who also happens to be on the regional surveillance team.
Central Regional Minister called for calm as his outfit liaises with health authorities to keep things under control. He called on residents to continue to observe the social distancing protocols and wash their hands thoroughly under running water. Richard Kwejenyako, Joy News, Cape Coast.
And in the Ashanti region, the Health Directorate has identified 10 communities as hotspots for potential spread of coronavirus. The region's case count has increased from 17 as of Monday to 25 as the national confirmed cases rose to 313 with 6 deaths. Regional Director of Health, Dr. Emmanuel Tinkrang, says the upsurge is due to what he says is active surveillance adopted by the Directorate. He has been speaking exclusively with Love FM's Prince Appiah.
The situation in Ashanti region, as I said, we follow closely Greater Accra. So far, we've identified 25 cases. The 25 cases, some of them were contacts that we were tracing, and then some of them were patients that we identified through our routine surveillance. And all those that, the 25, we also have another strategy to make sure that we get their contacts. The reason why we are getting more cases is that we are doing active surveillance. We are actually looking for cases. Yes, where people go to hospital and they are diagnosed, we call it passive surveillance. So this time we've added 2 strategies: enhancing surveillance, active surveillance, moving to high-risk areas, and then picking cases. And
so with these 8 new people, were they all, are they imported cases? Are they people who have travel history, or they are, residents who have had contact with an infected person?
3 of them have contact travel history, and then about another 3 of them has contacts with people with infection, but 2 of them no contact, no travel history. Yes, and we are getting those community spreads. We are getting them.
Must we be worried, the community spread?
No, not at all. Not at all. As at now, the rate is not very high, but as I keep on saying, we should observe the rules and the regulations.
You mentioned that there's been some hotspots depending on the individuals or the people that get infected. How many hotspots have you identified in Ashanti region so far?
You see, so far we are having close to about 10 hotspots. The reason is that for every case we get, every positive case we get, that area becomes a hotspot. So we started with 5. Right now we are moving close to 10. And the more we get cases, the more hotspots we'll be getting. So far, we have about 10 hotspots.
What does that translate into? What kind of picture does it paint? Must we be worried?
No, we shouldn't be worried at all. The reason is that if we adhered by the protocols and then the guidelines, then there's no need to fear at all. Because though it may be a hotspot, but you are not going out to get yourself infected. You only put yourself in danger if you try to do the wrong thing.
In this communities that you've identified as hotspot, what is happening to the residents there?
First we trace the contacts. So we talk to the person who is infected. He will tell us all the contacts that he has come into contact with, all the people, and then we also identify them. Then 1 kilometer radius of that house where we had the infection becomes the hotspot. So that way we move house to house.
And so far you are getting people voluntarily coming in this?
It has been very perfect.
And you're watching Joy News Prime.
We're taking a break. When we return, business will be next. Time now for business. Daryl Kwao is here with the very latest from the business world. Daryl, what's up in business?
Coronavirus pandemic very much in the news. We are scrambling for monies to fund the fight, and there are calls for government to touch some funds.
Government definitely has to do something.
And so we've got a great idea from the Ghana Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, GETI, which is calling for an amendment of the Petroleum Revenue Management Act to compel the finance minister to put money into the contingency fund for only emergencies. The call comes as the finance minister seeks 1.25 billion Ghana cedis from the contingency fund to fight the coronavirus pandemic. Co-chair of GETI, Dr. Steve Mantiao, says he is worried money has never been put in the account since the government came into power. He asked if this is not done immediately, the need to dip hands into the Heritage Fund will eventually be done. He spoke to Odilia Ntiamwa.
If you are sick, regardless of the fact that you are a contributor to SNET, even on your deathbed, you cannot call for your pension. You may die. When you die, the money or the benefits will accrue to your next of kin. In the same way, the Heritage Fund is our pension. If it's a Heritage Fund and it's a pension fund, indeed, in Norway, that's what they call a pension fund. You cannot call on your pension when you are not of the pension age. And so, if it's about meeting national emergencies, the point I make is that there are already existing mechanisms for dealing with that. So the question we ask ourselves is that why is that there is no money in the contingency fund? And there's no money in the contingency fund because the minister did not exercise that discretion given him to put money into it, and in a way that benefits all of us. So going forward, I would rather propose an amendment to the Petroleum Revenue Management Act to put an obligation on the Minister of Finance that at all times a specified percentage of the excess over the cap must go into the contingency. You see, when you are hit with emergencies like this, any sensible person or people will learn from it and put in place measures to ensure that they don't go through this situation. But as a country, we don't seem to learn from our errors. We always want to find an easy way out and continue in a business as usual manner. And so every now and then we're being hit with the same predicament. That is not good.
Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers Ghana, Duncan Amoah, has told Joy Business that the decision to seek legal redress following the introduction of a new levy on LPG is in the interest of the country. According to him, the imposition of the new levy is illegal as it has not been approved by Parliament nor the board of the NPA, a situation he describes as inappropriate.
Arbitrariness to stop. We need the NPA becoming a different law unto themselves to stop. The NPA has not now become an overriding power, even against Parliament. The law in Act 174 of the 1992 Constitution is clear. You cannot impose a levy or a tax on Ghanaians without the approval by Parliament. The NPA cannot sit in its own offices and just write directives to oil companies and LPG companies and instruct them to be collecting new monies for whatever purposes and be calling it different names. And so we are praying the courts to ensure that the arbitrariness that the NPA is engaged in currently is brought to a halt.
You think it's inappropriate for them to do that?
The law that establishes NPA, Act 691, does not give them any mandate whatsoever to impose levies on Ghanaians. Every single item on your price build-up, as far as petrol, diesel, LPG is concerned, is a function or something that came about from legislative, instruments. And so it becomes difficult to expect now that the NPA becomes a law that can impose new taxes or levies without even approval by the finance minister and Parliament. If that arbitrariness is allowed to stand, the precedent that it is setting will be a dangerous one, such that tomorrow, if Kwame also becomes the new NPA chief executive, then whatever taxes he also wants to load onto your fuel is allowed to go. The next day, if I also become NPA chief executive and I also want some margins, that cannot be allowed to continue. That is why the law is clear in Act 174 that for you to legislate or get any taxes or levies from Ghanaians, go to Parliament. Let the people's representatives deliberate and approve. The NPA cannot override all these considerations and start authorizing that the companies, oil companies, should start collecting monies from all of us. That is completely illegal, and we intend to contest this so that the precedent they are setting does not continue.
Now, since the outbreak of coronavirus, there have been many conspiracy theories, among them 5G technology being linked to the virus. Some have even said radiation from various installations have killed several birds, and this could be one of the things that sparked the spread of the virus in Wuhan, China. Well, founder of Celltel Networks Ghana Limited, Dr. Prince Kofi Klujasen, has discounted that theory.
Facts are not justified that 5G, can bring a disease or radiation, because 5G they're talking about it's only terminology, but it does not work on its own. 5G is a legal, framework. It works in a legal framework. It's a frequency that are allocated, for it to operate. Like Joy FM has 99.7. Now 5G also operate on the same frequencies. Now the tower that you see, they don't do anything until you press a button. If you press your phone, then you'll be able to get. You can transmit and then you receive. So the issues about 5G or not 5G is not tenable anywhere. And if you're not careful, we don't focus on the issues or the source of the coronavirus, we're missing the point.
As we saw environmentalists fight against telecom masks that have been raised in residential areas. They are of the view that should not be allowed.
Environmentalists or whoever is doing it, they have to bring the facts out. They have to justify that. But this is the research that I've done. These are the findings. This is the human being that was radiated in the village, in the community. There are so many. Ghana has so many towers everywhere. My village alone has 6 towers. So most of these things are people who are giving their personal views as to whatever but I don't think that is justified.
You've told us that we shouldn't be worried, and that the 5G whole conspiracy theory is a non-starter. But then people say that even the mobile phone that you use, it emits radiations, we are told, and you're holding a mobile phone. So where are these radiations coming from?
Ghana today, according to NCA, we have 40 million and above smartphones in Ghana. According to NCA, this is how many more than the population? 10 million over and above the Ghana's 30 million population. Now, those issues are all speculations. In terms of when you are on the phone for a long time, it's battery powered. One of the good news about all the devices are they are not AC powered; they are battery powered. So I don't know whether it's the battery that is generating the radiation or is the electricity that is generating the radiation.
All right, that's it for business for now. The news continues after this break.
Time now for showbiz. Becky is here with all the latest. Becky is looking fly, feeling fly tonight.
I feel like I'm coming all the way from London.
Yes, I just thought about that.
Should I speak the London language?
Because in it.
I know.
I realized that you were wearing some...
I know, but they can't see, so let's just, forget about that. But Aisha, this evening, let's talk about Reggie, grandpapa of Hip Life Music. He's been responding to comments made by Danzolati Shatta Wale for the fact that the hip life genre hasn't made impact, and also rap music hasn't really made impact. So Reggie, this morning on Daybreak Hit on Hit FM, has been responding to Shatta Wale.
Intelligent Ghanaian or African or anyone who was privy to my story or our story of hip life will tell you this. It's just definitely not to be downplayed. You see, people confuse this, and this is what is really sad. Ghanaians tend to downplay their own achievements. You see, hip life not Muhunesana. It inspired a whole generation of Africans, Ghanaians, what you call Afro beats, wasn't even there. It was hip life that inspired. Nigerians will tell you. Now, you can't tell me that hip life has not created jobs. Come on. I mean, look around you. This is like everybody benefited. It's actually on a national treasure level. It's like saying that high life had no impact for Ghana. That's what you would be saying about hip life. Everything that we have, has an affiliation to this movement. And in the history of Ghana, you have never had a prolific youth-oriented movement as hip life. You know that, right? And it's documented. I mean, you got books written on hip life, but you have to consider my position in this country as far as the arts. I am an elder. What am I saying? I cannot be seen to be having beef, talking back and forth with people. No, I can't do that. My hands are tied. Meet me, yes, I did. Into your buona, I want me booming hono. I need to stand so that these kids will accord me the same respect that I give to them.
Yeah, so Reggie is an elder, and which is the reason why he doesn't want to, go on that tangent.
I disagree with Shatta if he says he hasn't made any impacts, because he brought this whole rap into Ghana. Yeah, and we've seen the likes of Manifest and all the other people doing the rap. Well,
Menaye Muntari don't go.
But you can't quite dismiss what Shatta Wale has been saying. He said some significant things. And a number of the things he said, yes, they may be uncomfortable to listen to or hear, but they're true.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's yeah. So let's talk about Menaye Donko. Recently, she donated 2,000 parts to some headquarters here in Ghana, and well, she has a message for Ghanaians.
Hello everyone, this is Menaye Donko Muntari. I hope you're all doing well. Thank you for having me on your show. I'd like to first and foremost thank all the frontline workers that are putting their lives on the line for ours. the government for putting in place all the preventive measures and ensuring that our lives are in good hands, and to continue practicing all the preventive measures. Please, guys, social distancing is very important. Let's make the frontline workers' lives a lot easier by doing our part and to ensure that we fight this pandemic together. I love you, and God be with you all.
And God bless you, Manae, for this donation. Yeah. We're hoping to see more of that. Thank you very much, Becky.
Of course, anytime, Aisha.
And that will be 8 to 4. Those of you watching on Joy Prime, the news continues on Joy News.
Welcome back to Joy News Prime. The controversy surrounding who a frontline health worker is appears to be dividing the front of health professionals in the country, with the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association demanding more clarity on the categorization. President Akufo-Addo, in his televised nationwide broadcast last Sunday, announced a 50% salary allowance for frontline health workers as part of incentives to deal with the coronavirus pandemic. But what was supposed to motivate the medics to put in extra hours appears to be dividing their front, and the nurses and midwives are the latest to push through their own recommendations.
We are very thankful to you and your government for all the incentives that you have put in place. And we didn't have any issue with the address per se. It is the subsequent explanations for who the frontline workers are that has generated in a lot of disenchantment among our membership. And as we sit here, nurses and midwives across the country are very demotivated, and they are looking forward to us to get the outcome of this meeting to assure them that yes, whatever they are doing across the country is well appreciated. And it is also known to Ghanaians that they are risking their lives, putting themselves at the front of this war with a virus that cannot be seen, and doing their best. And therefore, that recognition is also very important. And on that particular issue, we want to recommend and say that all nurses and midwives are frontline health workers. Every nurse everywhere is a frontline health worker.
President Akufo-Addo had this to say about the controversy.
Language also going around at the moment, which I know is one of the issues in this pandemic, this famous expression, frontline health workers. I'm aware that it's an expression that is causing a great deal of, I won't go so far as to say discontent or disquiet, but it is certainly proving controversial. The leading figures who are dealing with this matter, the Minister for Health, the advisor to the President on Health, the coordinator of the task force on the response to the pandemic, they are busy trying to find an acceptable definition, and they hope that within a very, very short time, one will be put out, which hopefully will be comprehensive enough to meet your demands. But that process is not complete. And so therefore, if there's an input that you have to make to that exercise, this is the time to do it. Not necessarily at this meeting, but it can be done. Full ministers here, and the others are all here. The Presidential Advisor on Health is somebody who should be very familiar to you. He was until recently Director of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Nsia Sare, and then the coordinator of the task force, Dr. Asamoah Ba, another very well-known figure to you, I have no doubt. Distinguished doctor who's done a lot of work on the global scene as well as here. So there's an opportunity to influence the definition.
Well, Professor Michael Quay has referred the President's appointment of Dr. Bernard Okoboy as Deputy Health Minister to Parliament's Appointment Committee. He asked the MPs to expedite approval.
Following the revocation of the appointment of Honorable Vincent Sura Odotre, MP for Nadekotupu, as Deputy Minister for Communications, and the transfer of Honorable Alexander Ojo Aban, MP for Kumwa West, from the office of Deputy Speaker for Health to the office of Deputy Minister, to the Deputy Minister for Health, and office to the office of Deputy Minister for Communications. In accordance with Article 79(1) of the Constitution, I wish to inform you that I have nominated Honorable Dr. Okoboy, MP for Nadekotupu, to be appointed as Deputy Minister for Health, subject to the approval of Parliament. A copy of the CV is attached for your attention. Mr. Speaker, it is my hope that the approval of Honorable Dr. Okoboy, Deputy Minister Designate for Health, can be done quickly as befits the state of our current public health emergency, so that he can take up his new office promptly in the days ahead.
The Upper East region last Friday recorded its first COVID-19 case. The case of the 33-year-old pregnant woman brought the region's residents ever so close to a pandemic which is wreaking havoc across the globe. Joy News checks, however, indicate this has done little to move the residents to begin to take precautions, as everyone seems to be going about their business as usual, with no form of personal protection at all, despite being aware of coronavirus. Correspondent Albert Sore has been interacting with residents of the Bolgatanga Central Market.
Here in Bolgatanga, and it is a Sunday. Today is a market day, and you would see that a lot of people are trooping in and out of the Bolgatanga Central Market. This road is the one that leads into the market. Today, we are here to speak to people who are coming to the market to try and find out from them how they are taking the news of a coronavirus case being recorded in this region, and to find out from them whether they are taking any protective measures to keep themselves safe.
Master, the atmosphere is not easy. We are panicking, seriously, because right now we don't know what we are facing towards in Bolga here. Because there is a lot of people that doesn't understand the meaning of COVID-19.
Oh, we are panicked. In fact, we are afraid. When me even coming out, I didn't want to come out in the first place. I didn't want to come. I said now that we have recorded, then we are all at risk. So I'm still, as I'm here, I'm still panicking.
We need to improve upon certain things. I went to the market this morning. I realized that most people are still sitting without nose masks, which it is one of the measures to prevent this disease. But what I can say is that at least leaders and then other civil societies need to take measures to go inside the market and still give more education to most of our market women. So we see that a lot of people are still not taking this too seriously. Many people are coming into the market without nose masks.
We have the tricycle operators, or the can-do drivers as we popularly call them here in Bolgatanga, loading passengers the normal way. There is no social distancing whatsoever in the manner in which they load their passengers. And then inside the market itself, you still have normal overcrowding. You are not seeing anything different, and people are just going about their normal business without any protection at all.
Yes, actually I'm a can-do driver, but
We are still hammering on the point we didn't take it serious. We didn't care. To be sincere, I will not lie to you because I'm a can-do driver. We didn't take it serious. We still need some education.
They normally pick 5 people, but this I'm coming from home with them. We all live in the same house, so we decided to pick one, and then we all go together. We don't want anybody to join us. That is why we are here like this. So we are all safe. We are all safe. I think we are safe now.
Me per se, I have a hand sanitizer in my motorbike, but I don't have a face mask and I don't have the hand gloves, which I can also prevent myself, and I need to also feed my family. So I have to put on that race to come in to get the food stuff for the home. But I plead with the government, if they could make available those precaution measurements that will also help us.
The excuse is that the nose masks are quite expensive. In fact, I had to buy what I'm wearing for 6 Ghana cedis.
I have come out to buy something in the market. Yesterday I have covered myself like that. But the solution is that, look, one man is telling me that one doctor, that if we cover today, daybreak, we'll have to change it again. You know, no money. Are you getting me? Where is the money? And then you'll be changing, every day changing. And then head of state didn't provide anything to help us.
That is the excuse that many people are giving for not using nose masks and taking the risk of walking into the market and doing their normal business without any protection at all. From the Bolgatanga Central Market, my name is Albert Sorry, reporting for Joy News.
The Food and Drugs Authority has once again cautioned about the influx of fake brands of hand sanitizers onto the Ghanaian market, saying it will soon be flushing them out. It's as though it has approved 250 brands. There are many others that haven't been certified. Principal Regulatory Officer for the region, Nora Naki Telabi, tells Joy News the development undermines the country's efforts to contain COVID-19, as consumers of such unapproved sanitizers will not get the protection they are seeking against the virus. Oiming Terry of our Health Desk reports.
FDA says whilst there's a craze for local production of hand sanitizers in the Ashanti region, the lives of patrons are exposed to danger by what some of them are churning out.
We have registered 254 hand sanitizers, of which 20 are from Ashanti region here. So then it's unfortunate that suddenly we are seeing the creeping trend whereby people are sitting somewhere and are formulating things and labeling them as hand sanitizers, and that is unacceptable. What we notice is that it looked like identifiable groups people want to teach, and that is fine. Maybe they are a society and we feel like, oh, teach us how to do this. That is fine. You can teach them, but you have to teach them rightly. And in as much as you have taught them, they don't have a right to put the product on the market or even give it as a gift. Even if you are giving it as a gift, it is also controlled by the law. So you have to first bring the product to the Food and Drugs Authority for the authority to evaluate the product.
Mrs. Nakite Labi, Principal Regulatory Officer at FDA, explains.
If the product doesn't have the requisite percentage of alcohol or ethanol, which is the 70% and above, it might not be able to kill the microorganisms or the COVID virus that we are targeting. And so you may be rubbing this thing on your hands. It will give you the false confidence as, oh, I use hand sanitizer, so I'm sure I'm safe. And yet you are actually exposing yourself to so much harm. And by exposing yourself, you are exposing the rest of us to the same harm because we are in the same community.
Incensed by the situation, FDA, with the support of the security agencies, will go after producers and distributors of fake hand sanitizers.
So what we want the general public to know is that nobody can make any hand sanitizers, and those that are making them, the ones we are following up on them, and then we'll let the law take its course, because this is not the time or place where we look unlikely for any of these activities.
From Kumasi, for Joy News, Oiminteria reporting.
The multimedia group's Kumasi-based Lava Firmers reached out to underprivileged persons in some deprived communities with food to cushion them from the impact of the lockdown. Beneficiaries, mostly mothers at Asafo, Eija and Ekwetia Line, Bombay, were served hot meals and also giving food items including tomato paste, canned fish and cooking oil. The gesture was a response to a call by the Social Welfare Department for support for head porters and other street children who are unable to engage in economic activities due to the lockdown. Erastus Asarodonko has more.
Looking weary, unkempt and hungry, these are Asafo street children caught up in the lockdown. Some as young as 10 sleep packed under metal containers sitting on the main Subin drain, while others share this cubicle made of polythene. Many of them do menial jobs to earn a scanty meal a day, but with the city under lockdown, food has become a luxury. Meet this mother of 3 and head porter at Bombay, a slum at Akwatia Line. She represents hundreds of her colleagues who share these makeshift, congested wooden structures. Funds have dwindled under the lockdown and food is scarce.
2 weeks no be do na won this car. Say ja, obe yare by force. Because the journey be any ho aye be de. Abontin ya ye ton aduana no so. Enye obi na we ska or be ko abontin ko to aduana. Enti no say mommo aye.
The plight of the underprivileged got this appeal from the Metro Director of Social Welfare, Esther Aprekunyako.
I wish I take you through where the Kayais are sleeping. A small kiosk, about 10 people are in the kiosk with their babies. 8 people are in a small kiosk. This has been their place of abode, and they pay. And as for the food, it has to trickle down. Food, water, toiletries, it has to trickle down. So on this note, I'm appealing to benevolent organizations, NGOs, all those who are ready to support. I mean, your widow's mite. Something small will save a life.
Love FM responded with an appeal for support, which yielded positive results. On Tuesday, a team from the station distributed hot breakfast and raw foodstuffs to head porters and street children at Bombay, Asafo, and parts of Asia. The beneficiaries were grateful. There are others still in need of food under this lockdown, and support is welcome for them. David Akwete is host of Love in the Morning on Love FM.
I am excited to have been a part of this beautiful exercise, giving them something to at least eat this morning, and I look forward to doing more of such things just to give them something to eat and put smiles on their faces.
Reporting for Joy News, Erastus Asarodonko, Kumasi.
Now, religious groups in the Ashanti region are pleading with individuals who fall outside the vulnerable net to refrain from gate crashing on government's subvented food program. The leaders say they have observed a trend where people emerge from their homes to join needy persons whenever food is being distributed. They say efforts by government and its partners to cushion persons most affected by the lockdown is being disrupted. Nana Aljima has more in the following report.
Churches are collaborating with the National Disaster Management Organization to serve hot meals and distribute raw food to street children and other needy people. The Regional Coordinating Council on Wednesday took delivery of food items meant for such vulnerable individuals. Ashanti Regional Minister Simon Osei-Mensah insists the items must be given only to the vulnerable and no other.
In total, it's going to be about 100,000 packs that are made up of different items: rice, oil, sardine, sugar, gari, etc. There are various items that are going to be included in a single pack. The caution to everybody within the lockdown area is that these items are for the poor and vulnerable. It's not for everybody. Somebody like me or Osei-Mensah, I cannot use my position as the regional minister and go and assess the supply of these items. That would be criminal on my part. So those who have the capacity to buy or fend for themselves, we beg them, they should not write to the police and allow the poor and vulnerable, the most needy, to go for these items.
Already, thousands of people have been captured under the program. Anglican Archbishop of Internal Province of Ghana, Most Reverend Professor Daniel Yinka Safo, chairs the Kumasi Local Council of Churches. He says people who rush out of their homes for such ration at the expense of targeted persons are disrupting efforts by government and its partners.
Wherever the items are going, a pastor or a church representative will follow it so that the items will go to the rightful people, so that it will not be deviated and go anywhere. That is the work we are going to do for the president. From here, they are sending all the items to the distribution points, which are church premises. And then those people, the municipal chief executive and all those people, NADMO, and I say, will know, they know the electoral areas. And those places will be where people will assemble and will give the items to them.
Meanwhile, NADMO says it is well positioned to respond to any unforeseen incidents associated with COVID-19. Nana Ajiman Prempe heads the organization.
I think we are here purposely for this coronavirus thing. But you know, NADMO is the only disaster management organization in the country. We are always prepared. We know that very soon the rains will be setting in, and we are prepared. We will deal with that in another event.
For Joy News, Nana Ojima reporting.
The Ghana Navy is prevailing on fishing communities in the central and western regions to report any relative or stranger who returns from any of the neighboring countries by sea. According to the Navy, such people could severely undermine Ghana's fight against coronavirus. Though the country's borders have been closed, there are fears people are landing on the vast beaches along the country's coast. The Navy has been engaging leadership of the fishing communities as collaborators to ensure all such people are fished out and put through mandatory quarantine. Richard Kodunyako has more.
On March 21, Ghana closed all its borders to curb the spread of the novel coronavirus pandemic. That border closure has been extended, but there are reports of some fishermen and other people from neighboring countries traveling by sea to enter the country. The Ghana Navy says it is thus increasing its surveillance and education and wants the fishing communities to play their part to ensure that anyone that uses such means to enter the country is handed over to the health authorities to undergo mandatory quarantine. Flag Officer commanding the Western Naval Command, Commodore Emmanuel Kwafo, tells the leadership of the fishing communities to support the fight against the coronavirus by reporting such persons.
Because the borders have been closed, so the sea borders have been closed. So we should not allow our colleagues from Cote d'Ivoire, Liberia, Sierra Leone, and those places to enter. When they enter, we must let them come, but we must give them to the medical authorities so that they check them for the virus. We want them to understand and know what to do. We want them to appreciate the danger of allowing, because it's my brother, they know what to do, but when it comes close to them, this man is my brother, it's my uncle, then people want to break the protocols.
Central Regional Minister Kwam Nadankan wants the fisherfolk to discard the notion that the COVID-19 came purposely for the rich and affluent in the Ghanaian society and not the fishermen.
Na kasabisa masha semense da bay iya da biya be don ja akaji fu won sika da sa wo ji akaji fu won ni wo ya ba wo ya onko iya ba don da biya be da bay antu na dum iya da ba ye kupum.
I have been hearing comments from the fishing communities that the virus is a disease for the rich and educated in our society, and so no fisherman would be infected. I've also heard that because of the seawater, the fishing communities are already immune from the virus. Dispel these notions very quickly, because these will be our undoing. The virus fears no one. We would be badly hit should one case be reported from any of the fishing communities. This is because of the way we do our work and relate with each other. Omahine of the Edna traditional area, Nana Kojo Kondia tells Joy News he's liaising with the assembly and the leadership of the fishing community to fashion out ways of observing the social distancing protocols while they still go about their fishing activities. Richard Kwejonya Akon, Joy News, Cape Coast.
We'll take a break here now to bring you more business. Stay tuned in. Welcome back, everyone. We have some more business news for you tonight. We begin from the Ashanti region, and the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly has issued nearly 2,000 identification cards for business under a shift arrangement designed to control the numbers at the city's central market. The facility was closed down earlier this week over concerns about potential danger of coronavirus due to the failure of traders to observe social distancing. Chairman of the 11-member steering committee, Daniel Ankuma, says the cards printed separately in red, yellow and green are meant for traders in the food value chain only. Prince Apia monitored the distribution today and now reports.
Here at the Kumasi Central Market, and since Monday there's been a lot of discussions about how the Kumasi Central Market was closed down because the traders were not abiding by the social distancing directive by government and the World Health Organization. As I speak to you now, leadership of the Kumasi Central Market, the traders, the KMA and some security personnel here and the task force from KMA are over here making sure that the traders get their unique ID cards that will enable them trade here in the Kumasi Central Market. All gates. Only one. We've been speaking to the chairman of the 11-member steering committee.
We came to a conclusion, finally, that there will be a shift system. The shift system is, if I'm having 60 traders under me, they will be divided into 3. So we have 3 different ID cards. First one, red. The second one, yellow, and then green. So when we start from tomorrow, Thursday, the green or the yellow will stay away. The red traders will come. And then the next day, the yellow people will also follow. Then the last shift will come on the 3rd day. So we shall be moving from association to association to be sure the orders and regulations are complied.
Almost 2,000 of the unique identification cards were distributed on Wednesday. They were given to the various foodstuff market queens for onward distribution to their members. The traders are ready. They are all anxious of getting their cards so they can start trading. As we share these ID cards, those who can sell during this period are the foodstuff traders. Anyone who do not have these ID cards shouldn't come to the market unless the consumers. If we identify you are on the gold shift but come to the market during another shift, you will be penalized. Anyone who flouts the directive will not be allowed in the market again. Those on the red shift starts tomorrow, she says. The leadership of the traders are saying that you are not going to be allowed to trade here again if you are found flouting the rules set up by the leadership of the traders and the KMA. My name is Prince Apia reporting from Kumasi Central Market.
Energy sector player Hasman Technical Services is providing a 100,000 cedi support for the Noguchi Memorial Institute for Medical Research to build its capacity in the fight against the deadly coronavirus. Managing Director William Odro believes supporting the research institute will go a long way to keep the country ahead in fighting other infectious diseases. Here's more in this report.
The donation follows calls by the Institute to the private sector to support its efforts in finding a solution to deadly diseases in the country. Managing Director of Hasman Technical Services, William Odro, expressed confidence that the work done by Noguchi in these critical times is very important and needs more support.
Look at if Noguchi Memorial Institute was not here in Ghana. If Noguchi was not here in Ghana,
we will be taking samples and we may have to take them out of the country. If you consider a pandemic situation that the whole global event is right now, we may have to take samples out and be in queue in somewhere in another country, right? Okay, we may have to take samples and be out in queue, you know. And so if you consider from March, you know, just last month, March, when we got our first case of COVID-19 and the anxiety in the crowd, in the Ghanaian public, and we were lucky to have an institute like Noguchi to be able to, you know, analyze and tell us what the results were. I mean, that's just reassuring. So we want to be able to help them to grow and to do more research into the medical.
Director of the Institute, Professor Abraham Kwabena Anang, has been explaining to Joy Business that the capacity building of its staff is very critical since the outbreak of the pandemic has increased its activities.
When these kind of global health emergencies like COVID-19 comes about, the Institute is able to very quickly put itself in the front line and provide critical services. In this case, for example, the testing services. And as we do that, the Institute has already established a tradition based on its mandate. You see, our mandate is threefold. First, to conduct research into infectious and non-infectious diseases. Any research into any disease of public health importance is included. Second, we build capacity through training, especially training the next generation of scientists, and also the capacity of health professionals, like the Ghana Health Service.
The 100,000 cedi donation is part of many support offered by the private sector to aid in the fight against COVID-19.
And gold added a little over $2 to trade at about $1,650 an ounce. Let's take a look at trading today on the commodity market. And that's your business update. Sports is up next. Do stay tuned.
Thank you for staying with us here on Joy News Prime. I'm Gary Al Smith with the sport. It's the piece of news or the bit of news that no player wants to hear, that your time is up with a club and you have to go. But that is what Great Olympics are doing. They've asked 13 players to kindly see the door.
Into our checks, the move is to augment the squad with dedicated players before the season resumes. Skipper Emmanuel Clottey is among the players to have had their contracts terminated. His involvement in the Kotoko Esperance impasse necessitated the club's decision to part company with him. Other players affected are Godfred Saka, Oleinu Ashite, Emmanuel Amate, who is the brother of Black Stars and Leicester City defender Daniel Amate, and goalkeeper Enes Sowa. The massive clearout was expected following recent comments by coach Arno Walker on how he is looking for dedicated players to turn things around for his side.
For Great Olympics, as you know, they've gone through about 4 coaches already this season, and yeah, we should expect, if football comes back, for them to have a really new look. Yesterday, by this time, I was telling you about how FIFA is moving to allow the transfer windows across the world to work in the wake of the coronavirus. Well, the GFA have swiftly moved in that direction to do their bits to ensure that on the local front, things will follow the global policy that FIFA put forward yesterday by extending the second player registration deadline. Here's a report.
The Ghana Football Association wishes to announce that the second transfer window of the 2019-2020 season that opened on the midnight of Monday, March 16, 2020 will be allowed to run till midnight Monday, April 13, 2020. However, the Executive Council has decided that following the guidelines advisory from FIFA, when normalcy is restored, the GFA will apply to FIFA to open the window for a period to allow clubs to strengthen their squads. The Premier League and Division 1 League, the Women's Premier League, are currently on hold due to the coronavirus pandemic. It would also be recalled that the commencement of the lower leagues of the regional football associations was also halted because of the pandemic.
There's so much trending, but we'll leave the rest for tomorrow as we have to finish the news now. I'm Gary Al-Smith with the Sport. Thank you for your time. You can get more on myjoyonline.com/sport.
Time now for Joy News Interactive, and you know how to join the conversation on facebook.com/Joy News on TV. On Twitter is at Joy News on TV. On Instagram is also on Joy News on TV. And you know that the numbers have surged for the confirmed COVID-19 cases. Ghana now has recorded 313, 6 deaths, and one more region has also contracted the diseases. So we have 7 of the regions having it: Northern, Upper East, Upper West, and Eastern region, Northern region, Greater Accra, and the Ashanti region. People have been commenting on Facebook about this development. When we posted it, it has 4.3K views over the likes and 737 comments, 607 shares. Khalifa Banda says the more we record positive cases, the better we are safe as a country, because those people would have been spreading it if not found, and besides, the positive cases has to climb and get to its peak before it starts to decline. So let's all stay calm and observe the necessary precautions. Deron says, but it's very surprising that after bribing us with free water for 3 months so that we can't criticize, when the reality starts dawning on us, they are giving out huge numbers. 99 positive cases have been announced in just 3 days of the free water. What a miracle. Nana Ofori says the government should implement a mandatory measure to all the residents and non-residents in the country to wear the face mask, protective hand gloves and sanitizers to prevent this virus daily. If not, the cases will keep rising day by day. Parents who must seriously check and educate their children from the ages of 3 to teens, helping them to use the sanitizers daily. Most government officials do not wear the face mask, protective hand gloves when donating to the public. In some pictures shot and videos through the social media, all must kindly help prevent this virus since the vaccine is not yet discovered. And Asante Moraba says they need to expand the testing facility to give us quick updates. There's more, just that the test center can give us more in a day. Tomorrow too it will increase, so don't be surprised. Just that those having are in their houses spreading the virus whilst they wait for their results. And Ato Kwame Aiken says we can only thank God to live, but before that we need to learn how to live and practice good hygiene, like covering our mouth when sneezing, washing our hands when we come into contact with anything touchable. At least we're now careful hugging people anyhow. Gone are the days when you forget yourself to greet someone, you're tagged disrespectful, being disrespectful. Now we won't pay attention to that anymore. It has also drawn a lot of people to God. Families are enjoying, parenting is now enjoyable. We are all in this together. These too shall pass. And Ben Newton says this ain't news anymore, because we know the number will keep increasing, because you guys already got the actual figure. Like, let's say 3,000 morbidity cases, but they drop small to reach the actual figure low key. There will still be an increase since they are still testing the people affected, and these people have also come into contact with other people.
Oh no, just wanting to wrap up pending the bulletin and getting to.
Well, yes, we're going to be recording more cases. That's we know, because the president has already assured us that we're going into our critical phase. So yes, the cases will rise, but we're hoping that as it rises, we're getting better. Israel.
All right, that'll be it for the bulletin. I'm Israel. Thank you very much for watching.
And my name is Aisha Ibrahim, and the news was brought to you in our studios in Kokomlemle, Accra. For more news, log on to myjoyonline.com for all the updates. You want to stay with the Joy News channel because PM Express comes out shortly with me.